Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. With your 2026 WWE WrestleMania 42 Night 1 Instant Analysis. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, and we are here just minutes after the conclusion of the first night, Saturday, of WWE WrestleMania 42 to break down everything that happened on this show, leading, of course, into night 2, occurring less than 24 hours from now on Sunday. Vintage Chris Vanini, the co-host around these parts, will be along for the ride momentarily. As we get into the show, though, I do need to remind you off the top here at Getting Over.
It's all about Defy.
So please, folks,
stop being marks for yourselves and go back to being a mark for me.
Go back to being marks for the Silver King, for Vintage, for Getting Over in totality. Head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Also, do not forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You get to vote in pre- and post-show polls, which we are posting for both nights of WrestleMania and discussing later in this episode. Your grades for night 1, both before it began and after it concluded. You can also send us questions and comments for the show. We will be reading many of those during our WrestleMania week second look this coming Tuesday. It's also going to be the Raw after WrestleMania episode across the board. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast, and that includes on YouTube. You can subscribe there, listen to the shows, watch full-length video interviews as well. That all said, it is time to welcome in Vintage Chris Vanini, but before I do that, we do have a tradition here at Getting Over. Whenever we do an instant analysis for a premium live event or a pay-per-view, we crack open a cold one. And the Silver King tonight, I had a different beer scheduled in the refrigerator, but considering the way WrestleMania transpired, I decided to shelve that and go with something, a lot more basic and appropriate. I have Medalla, I believe is what it's called, from Puerto Rico. Their traditional home light beer. I got it sent in a public relations package. And you know what? Considering how much of WrestleMania was about corporate sponsorships and promotions, I figured, what the hell? Let me go ahead and do that. Visit Puerto Rico. Vintage, what do you got over there?
Yeah, if they want to sponsor the show, reach out. I have a Sour True Love, which is a raspberry sour ale.
Also appropriate.
Martin House Brewing Company in Fort Worth, Texas.
Awesome. That does sound actually delicious. And I will say, you know what? I was kind of being a little bit of an ass a second ago, but it's pretty damn good beer. So good stuff coming out of Puerto Rico. Vintage, we got a ton to talk about on this show. For anyone who is listening for the first time, basically what a Getting Over instant analysis episode does is we break down the entire card, every single match. We tell you what happened. We give you our thoughts on the match quality, but also the storytelling, the decisions from a booking standpoint, and what we believe is going to happen in that company going forward. In this case, of course, it is WWE. In the case of WrestleMania, because there is a go-home SmackDown the Friday night before, there are often storylines and segments that kind of bleed into WWE WrestleMania. And because we are a comprehensive show and we break down every segment from Raw and SmackDown most weeks, when they have to do with WrestleMania, we integrate those into our breakdown. So there will be a couple occasions tonight where we talk about SmackDown before we get into what happened at WrestleMania. Now, before we even get into this WrestleMania Night 1 instant analysis, there were a couple notes that were kind of lingering around in my head. And this is even coming out of our bonus WrestleMania week wrap-up show that we did on Friday. And the main one is that some of the best builds for WrestleMania this year were interviews that were released Thursday and Friday on social media and YouTube, many of which, in fact, I'm going to say all of which, aired on the WWE WrestleMania Countdown show, half of them for night 1. I'm sure the rest will air Sunday for night 2. There were great interviews with Roman Reigns, Randy Orton, and Cody Rhodes. WWE continues to understand that these interview segments are important, yet they can't figure out that they should be putting them maybe in their entirety, or if not, significant clips from them on their television shows, which will sell these matches way better than some of the segments that they're actually putting on TV, especially this year. Roman Reigns had a backseat promo that I played on that wrap-up podcast in a car. That was tops, but Reigns' interview with Michael Cole on YouTube was even better, you could argue. It included something that felt like it gave away the WrestleMania Night 2 main event. Reigns said if he loses to CM Punk, he doesn't belong in WWE anymore, which, yeah, it's kind of a giveaway. Rhodes got a similar interview saying the Randy Orton we are seeing now for the first time with Pat McAfee is a fake guy. It's not the real him. He also talked about the McAfee reveal being disappointing and said he should go back and say thank you, Daddy, for getting him involved at WrestleMania. He also said it was the first time in wrestling history that 100% of the audience agrees nobody wants Pat effing McAfee at WrestleMania. Joe Tessitore interviewed him for this, pointed out what we have said about 3 straight of his WrestleMania main events being influenced by outside forces. This was the single best part of the Cody Rhodes Randy Orton build over the last month, and it didn't happen on television. So this is just kind of, Chris, a microcosm of WWE getting a lot of stuff wrong on this road to WrestleMania. And as a bit of a spoiler and teaser for what we're going to talk about over the rest of the show, it bled into night 1.
This show was not good. Like, spoiler right off the top. That is going to be a theme of this episode. It was not a good night 1 of WrestleMania. And part of it was because there was so much just nonsense filler instead of the good stuff. And this right here was an example of the good stuff that would have been useful at any other time. Another thing that barely happened on the show, almost no video packages and stuff like that. So just a really... Yeah, other than the main event. So just so much crap on the show. When you see something like that, Cody and Roman interviews, you're like, oh yeah, they can actually do good stuff if they just, let them.
Yeah, it's like these guys are talented and girls are talented. They are able to cut promos. They are able to build storylines through interviews. Now, to be fair, nothing that was said by Cody or Randy would have made what happened Saturday night any better necessarily, but it would have got you more excited for the show. And WWE's job is supposed to be to sell you on watching the show and then entertain you while you are watching the show. And
yes, the number one thing they did to sell the show was have Pat McAfee tell you this business
sucks. Right. Precisely. And
as
then
opposed to what we had here.
And then what we're going to get into, one of the big topics I have a feeling we're going to discuss is, did that matriculate into something that ultimately mattered and was deserving of the TV time it received? And we're going to put a pin in that. We'll talk about it momentarily. Let's officially get into the WWE WrestleMania 42 Night 1 instant analysis. Couple quick items off the top, general thoughts about the show. Exceptional rendition of God Bless America by that Las Vegas choir. When that opened, I go, holy cow. Like, this show started off hot, and I'm really excited for what's to come. They got me going. I'm not a big choir guy, or I'm also not a big God Bless America guy. I much prefer America the Beautiful. But I loved that off the top. The WrestleMania 42 set reveal on Friday, they always put it out on social media, extremely disappointing. The video was more focused on like 30 content creators taping it in broad daylight, as opposed to those really awesome evening reveals that WWE has done in the past. Now, perhaps since the show wasn't happening at night, they didn't want to raise expectations too high. Beyond that, though, the set was a massive downgrade from 41, both in quality and size, the latter of which is surprising because they had more space to fill this year selling fewer tickets. It was basically just LED boards with 2 columns standing out from the stage. Now, I am not sitting here telling you it was as bad as 35 in New York, but it was a major step down from 41, 40, and 39. Other than that, aesthetically, there were ads all over the ring. We've come to expect that. The only thing that bothered me, the Capital One logo on the turnbuckles, because it had this weird blue rectangle on the background, and it wasn't just the logo. So to me, it stuck out like sore thumbs. Those are 2 items off the top that I wanted to mention. One more, John Cena opened the show as host. WWE again briefly screwed up the audio mixing for his entrance. The crowd was so loud chanting, he immediately got emotional and choked up. Didn't say that much, but he was the perfect person to get the show going. The crowd was energetic and louder than it otherwise would have been at 3 p.m. local time because Cena was out there. So thumbs up for God Bless America and Cena. Thumbs in the middle to downward arcing for the set and the aesthetic, especially with that logo and the turnbuckles.
I thought the set was okay. It felt very like WrestleMania 17 vibes, which had the massive X7s on the side. I thought it was okay, and they did some okay stuff with it. Like, it wasn't bad.
It was not
40
bad.
wasn't.
It was not bad.
It was not bad. It was just kind of like, okay, whatever.
Like WrestleMania 40 was very plain with the XL, but 39 and 41 were pretty freaking awesome. And for me, this was worse than all of them, is all I'm saying. It was the worst probably since 35 or 37 may have been the Star in Dallas. Was that the one you went to? Was that 37?
38. 30, yeah, well.
Oh, 37 was the pirate ship.
Gigantic Star.
Yeah, 37
was the pirate ship.
Was the pirate ship. So this was the worst since 37 is what I would say.
Yeah, Cena was fine. He looked weird in a suit. Don't see that very often in WWE. His hair looked like almost like too long. It actually used to look better when he was in WWE.
I thought he kind of looked great, honestly. Like
healthy. I thought
happy.
when he left WWE, that was the best his hair had ever looked. But that was that. This isn't new, but the Then Now Forever that they've been using recently, I don't think it's very good. I think the previous ones used to be a lot better, but overall, that was whatever. The production of this show was not good.
No.
From audio issues, which were plentiful, to cameras missing stuff, to timing missed. It was kind of a mess.
Yeah, and there have been major production improvements from WWE in terms of risks they're taking, things they're doing differently, especially from the past, less shaky cam, things like that. But it's the consistency and overall quality that, look, we're not putting over Kevin Dunn here on the show, I promise you, but they ran a tight ship is all I'm trying to say. WWE these days, keep all the positive things you're doing, run a tighter ship. That's the production note. Let's go. Let's get into it match by match. I know that's what everyone's waiting for. We didn't mean to take up that much time off the top, but we do want to be comprehensive here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. The WWE Championship was on the line in the main event. Cody Rhodes defending against Randy Orton with Pat McAfee by his side. Now, there were multiple segments that happened on SmackDown, and we are going to go over them, not only because they happened, period, but they're actually kind of notable in terms of the way I viewed the main event based on what we got the 3 weeks prior and then what we got on the go home. So on SmackDown, Nick Aldis presented McAfee with some type of agreement at the start of SmackDown. McAfee said he became a self-made billionaire by reading all his own contracts. He needed time, and they said they had a meeting apparently scheduled for later. Except with Orton there, he's like, hey, I'm going to go to the ring, cut a promo. So McAfee's like, all right, he just signs the paper. Like, I swear, this guy has no idea what he's doing from 1 minute to the next. Maybe he is legitimately high all the time. Doesn't know his ass from his elbow. The meeting never happened. He drove away from the venue a minute after Orton's ensuing promo. Every time McAfee has spoken the last 4 weeks, he says at least one dumb as hell illogical thing. It's insane to me that he's been put in a position where he had such a prominent role, yet got stuff wrong constantly. And don't even get me started on him calling Aldis foreign Adam Pearce 3 times in one segment after he said the same thing last week.
So dumb.
Beyond that, we weren't even given details about the agreement. I presumed it was managerial in nature so he could accompany Orton to the ring, but 0 specifics were provided. And guess what? On Saturday night, we got 0 specifics either. It never came up again.
Very weird. I thought it would. It didn't. All this was like smiling, and that was it.
Yeah, it seemed like he had some ulterior motive that we didn't know about, making him sign the thing, and didn't do anything. So Orton in the ring on Friday said he doesn't need McAfee. He wants him by his side because he's the only straight shooter in WWE, the only guy who told him he just needs to be himself. He explained how McAfee was in his ear well before Elimination Chamber, and he was ready to be the Viper, holding nothing back, going after Drew McIntyre. But Rhodes winning the title and giving him permission to be himself was insulting. Randy went over all the times Cody disappointed him, calling Rhodes selfish, saying he was insulted when Cody asked for the help of Seth Rollins, not Orton, against Roman Reigns 2 years ago, and he was angry when Cody gave Kevin Owens a title match after becoming WWE champion. There were more examples. Orton said being by Rhodes' side hurt his legacy far more than aligning with McAfee, so he's going to right those wrongs with an RKO. Cody's name got booed twice during this promo. The crowd was cheering for Randy at the end, as it has been this entire build. There were brief lapses while, Pat is around that Orton would get booed, but pretty much they've been cheering Randy. This was a strong and logical promo, hitting plenty of points we had discussed over the prior few months. The problem is, it was done on the go-home. Rhodes was not in the ring with him, so it just existed in a silo. This is the story they should have been telling the entire time. Them going back and forth about this as part of an actual build would have been interesting. Instead, it was basically nothing. It was Orton saying, oh, by the way, all these things that you wanted to hear, here you go.
Yeah, no, good promo. Kind of got back to the story. I kind of like forgotten. Oh yeah, when Randy won Chamber, Drew was the champion. So like things did kind of change. So it was a good recap promo to kind of get us to where we were. So good job.
Cody main evented SmackDown dressed in all black, wearing a bow tie because of the Hall of Fame. He got a 50-50 reaction when his music hit and went alone in the ring, precisely as I said he would 6 weeks ago. Rhodes said he didn't want to talk about the last 3 WrestleManias and the conspiracy theory that someone up high is messing with him, except, he just addressed it, saying he didn't subscribe to that theory and he accepted the fans' mixed reactions. He said Saturday night's main event is simple. Cody against his mentor, a guy who never takes responsibility for his actions and lost at WrestleMania at his peak in 2009, which I thought was an interesting point. CM Punk surprisingly interrupted, so Rhodes jokingly asked him if he was going to kick him in the balls, should they shake hands and hug. Without saying his name, Punk told Rhodes not to waste his time or energy worrying about the tourist invading their industry. They need to recognize that they are both in the middle of the ring together as world champions going into the main events of WrestleMania. Punk said he can't predict what's going to happen, but he's proud of Cody. They'll both be around on Monday, and he hopes the crowd that Rhodes has cultivated will be as well. When Punk tried to leave, Cody stopped him, cautioning about Roman Reigns' dominance and putting him over for returning to WWE and not phoning it in, but performing as well as ever like when Shawn Michaels returned. Rhodes then suggested Punk might wind up as the new Mr. WrestleMania. No. Are you high, bro? Seth Rollins, if anyone, would receive that title. But then he got choked up, saying Dusty Rhodes would be extremely proud of Punk. They hugged, Cody's music played, Punk cut it off, saying the world titles belonged as much to the fans as they did to them. And then they jumped in the crowd with the titles to end SmackDown. We didn't really get to see it, but they did. Now, I'd normally spend a ton of time discussing this segment. It was extremely interesting, starting with both guys having tongue-in-cheek fun before WWE clearly tried to put Cody and Punk in the same victimization role, both seeming to know they were up against more than their opponent alone at WrestleMania, but not saying as much in kayfabe to keep kayfabe for the fans. It was quite well done from both of them, and it's difficult to tell an audience that you have something to say without actually saying it. But they were speaking forebodingly, as if it was the end of this babyface era for WWE, like they were William Wallace going into battle, knowing they would not come out on the other side. The idea being they need to appreciate that they are friends going into WrestleMania together as champions, because forces are going to prevent them from coming out of the show as champions. That's the way I read this segment, and I thought it was extremely interesting because I was like, wow, it's really putting these guys on the same side going into WrestleMania. Maybe there is a real connection between Roman Reigns and Randy Orton, and something across both nights is going to happen, and we're going to come out on the other side thinking, wow, you know what? Parts of this creative really sucked, but they made a genius swerve, turn, whatever type of move. That is how I felt coming out of SmackDown on Friday night. That's how interesting this segment was.
Well, at first I thought, hey, Cody and Punk together, like that actually has not happened very often.
Not really,
since they've come back. And it was kind of cool to see them together with the history they have and all that stuff. I mostly took it as, hey, like, we're probably never going to both be champions going into Mania ever again. Like, that's pretty cool. Obviously, Punk had only ever been in the main event one time. I took it as that, with the possibility of, like you said, maybe they're foreboding something bigger coming, but maybe it's just two guys appreciating the moment and being dudes.
Possibly. Maybe I read into it more than it was meant to be, but I mean, the way they spoke, and they talked about being 10 toes down and these forces at work, and Cody talking about the conspiracy around him and his WrestleMania main events, it just seemed like there was something bigger there that they were going to reveal Saturday and or Sunday, and that all of this angst that we've been put through was going to pay off in some way. Well, that was Friday night. Let's move over to Saturday. I appreciate everyone's patience. Us getting through that. McAfee got a full entrance. Orton had a slightly enhanced one with a snake graphic, but really nothing too special. Randy got cheered loudly with his music sung and everything by the crowd as usual. Rhodes got an entrance that I figured was meant to be, I don't know, someone probably knows the exact reference. I thought it was like Iron Man or Batman with mannequins representing every stage of his career dressed like him throughout the years. This year, he had an all-gold getup and a skull helmet. I thought his entrance was fantastic. There was a mixed reaction at first, but fans loudly sang a song. Jelly Roll did not come out. McAfee stole Alicia Taylor's mic to do Orton's ring announce, and to be fair, he actually did a nice job for the first time all feud. I liked his ring announce. Rhodes largely got booed during his ring announce, and then Charles Robinson was about to ring the bell. But before he did, McAfee hit Cody with the microphone, only to eat a crossroads seconds later to cheers. As Cody was beating him ringside, that's when Jelly Roll randomly showed up, climbed onto the Spanish announce table, dropped an elbow on McAfee, exploding the English table, and McAfee did a pretty great sell job. I got to give him credit again. McAfee got fully stretchered out, and as he gets on the ramp and the fans can see him, he sticks a thumb up in the air like he's an athlete, going out and don't worry about me. But they all booed him instead of cheered. So quick pause here, because as much as I and many of you have hated this entire angle and everything they have done jamming McAfee into this, killing the road to WrestleMania, in a silo, let me make this crystal clear. In a silo, this 4 to 5 minutes, it was pretty damn entertaining and satisfying as a viewer, especially because it was maybe they cleared the deck for this match. I thought, McAfee's probably going to run back out there. This is WWE after all, and there's no way they wasted an entire month just for that one throwaway spot. So I figured there'd be more on the back end. But when this ended, I was like, you know what? That was pretty damn well done.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. And I've felt all along, and I said this before too, I think McAfee is doing a pretty good job at being kind of the heel manager they're asking him to be in a different context. I think it could be really working. The problem is him getting thrown into the main event of a story that was already good 2 weeks prior, and some of the stuff he said that didn't quite make sense. But of doing the actual job of being heel manager, whatever, he actually did that pretty well, including the sell job here. This is, Bobby Heenan or whoever, getting it done to them. That's what pro wrestling is. And I thought that to that point, that it really worked. And when this happened, I thought, okay, they've knocked McAfee out because something else is going to happen at the end of the match.
Exactly.
That was my thought.
That's I figured that was another option too. If this was McAfee working again, just a shitty quick example with Sami Zayn and Trick Williams, right? And it was much lower stakes and he wasn't talking about the IWC and the Attitude Era, then you would say, you know what? He probably enhanced it and brought some heel tactics to things and got heat. He did get a lot of heat constantly this whole show. So I was like, you know what? There was something there. There was a genesis of a character that could have worked somehow. It was the wrong feud, utilized him too much, and he said the wrong things on top of everything else. But for the first 5 minutes of this match, I was like, you know what? It's pretty damn entertaining and satisfying. So he gets out. They roll him away. Jelly Roll just disappears. Michael Cole on commentary randomly brings up at the start of the match rumors of Orton dealing with a back injury. And Wade Barrett dismissed those as just mind games. But then Orton gave Rhodes a backbreaker from the side, sold his own back being tweaked from that point forward in the match. It seriously slowed everything down, yet he did a top rope superplex anyway, following with a power slam draping DDT announce table backdrop. Orton got color when Rhodes ran him into the ring post. I thought it was another capsule, but he might have done a tiny blade job or something between his eyes. There was red throughout the rest of the match.
Yeah, it had to be a blade.
Yeah, I did not think it was initially, but it was. Cody got heat by going at him aggressively, hitting a disaster kick. He got a few cheers for following Randy's blood and grabbing some of it, wiping it over the dream tattoo on his chest, which was a really nice visual and a nice callback. Rhodes played into the heat by telling the crowd he heard them before hitting a draping DDT and pounding on the canvas like he was a viper. And it was these moments, the blood, wiping it on his chest and doing this is when the match picked up, but this was halfway through the match. Orton avoided a charging RKO, running Cody into the turnbuckles before hitting his own crossroads for a false finish. Rhodes countered an RKO with a backslide, then hit his own RKO for a false finish. Plus, Orton's backdrop into the announce table just as a chaser. When he went to attempt a Cody cutter, Randy caught him running for an RKO false finish. Orton was clearly the fan favorite during a strike exchange. Rhodes got massively opened up hard way, gushing from his hair. I don't know if it was from a punch or hitting the canvas, but not only was he bleeding for the duration of the match, his entire left eye got swollen shut in the post-match. Randy got blinded by a poke to the eye by Cody, ironically, and accidentally RKO'd the referee. Rhodes snuffed out an attempted low blow from Orton. He caught his leg. Then he low blowed him. But when he tried to hit a double jump Cody cutter, Orton caught him flying with an RKO, and there was no one there to count. So McAfee predictably ran back out in a neck brace with a referee shirt, but not the current one, the gray one, the old white and black one, no logo on it. Rhodes kicked out of his count anyway, and then Orton starts laughing. So McAfee gets Orton up. He starts giving him instructions. Orton says, F it, hits McAfee with an RKO. That distraction gave Cody an opening for one more crossroads and then the 1-2-3. However, as Rhodes was celebrating with the WWE Championship, Orton stole it away from him, did a belt shot. It looked like he might hand it to Cody as a means of like, hey, we've been assholes to each other, but like, you're champion. But instead, he tossed the title aside and landed his first punt kick, I believe, since the pandemic, which got cheered. It was an awesome punt, too, with a terrific sell by Cody. Maybe the best part of the whole segment.
I don't know if it was much of a sell.
Yeah, he may have just punted him straight in the head. Yeah. Like he kicked him in the head. So the fans were all over the place. Like they were almost cheering the individual moments they liked rather than specifically cheering one guy or the other. But if they were certainly cheering Randy more than Cody. This went more than 25 minutes until the show's final buzzer. So it was about like 28 to 29 minutes all in as a total segment. Now, before I break down this whole match, I do want to credit the conceptualization of one sequence, which was having Orton hit the RKO on McAfee, which was satisfying for the fans, got them cheering. And then the match immediately going into the finish with Rhodes hitting crossroads and getting the 1-2-3. It was a really smart way to keep the cheers going from one spot to the next, allowing Cody to get cheered at the final bell when the fans otherwise did not want that to be the result and would have booed him. So I just thought that was pretty cool the way they did that. And I also want to clarify, there were multiple sequences in this match that I enjoyed, wrestling-wise, back and forths. It all was at the middle mark onward, but some of the color they got, the crossroads exchanges and the RKOs, the RKO counter of the Cody cutter, there was a lot of individual good moments in this match. Yet, Chris, I'm not entirely sure what to think about it. It was purposefully slow and plodding to start. They were not only telling a story, but looking to extend time. Orton at his age cannot go 30 minutes at full speed, and Rhodes probably can't either. When it reached the midway, it kicked into another gear, came across like the main event I expected when it was first made at Elimination Chamber. Those last 10 minutes or so were largely excellent from a wrestling standpoint, but the match needed to be that for 30 minutes because the first half was, or maybe 2/3, was boring, even if it was purposefully trying to do something. And that was coming out of the John Cena match last year, which was purposefully boring. What was most confusing is that both guys were working like heels in the match. Now, for Orton, he is a heel. For Rhodes, I read it as him like learning his lesson from a year ago with Cena, truly finding an edge, not letting himself get run over by someone else. But then you have McAfee run back out there. That's okay because that's typical professional wrestling stuff. But Orton looked like an absolute idiot turning on him in that moment, opening himself back up to a crossroads and effectively losing the match because he attacked McAfee, with whom he was listening to apparently for months and aligned with on television for 1 month. Why? What did Pat do? Was it because he didn't fast count? Or was it because he got taken out before the match and ruined their plan? So they jammed McAfee into the story clunkily. They write him off at the start of the match. They have Orton sell his back as if it had been something established for weeks. Then they don't have Cody work as a pure babyface. They appear to tease a double turn, but they don't actually do it. Then they have Orton punt Rhodes at the end, yet Randy gets cheered and Cody gets booed, and they're continuing this feud into a portion of the year that does not have another major show until SummerSlam. Why are we using a main event at WrestleMania to start a feud? This is like AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura. So coming out of this, it was impossible to understand what we were supposed to take away as viewers. Orton is a full heel. Okay, fine. Rhodes has an edge. He's shown one before. McAfee was as completely worthless as we expected. Nothing will seemingly be connected tonight, too. I mean, we have to wait and see, but it seems impossible now, the way this ended. If they had Orton hit the RKO on McAfee, then punt kick Rhodes with the referee down and pin him and win the title, that would have been a finish. That would have been interesting. It extricates Pat, crowns Randy, gives Cody an excuse. Instead, it's like WWE has this boner for Cody where they need him to be a babyface, and it clouds their judgment no matter the situation. If you didn't want him to get booed in this match, then you shouldn't have put Randy as his opponent at WrestleMania. Then you have McAfee and Jelly Roll forced into the situation. It somehow makes it worse. I did not hate this as a wrestling match. So I'm going to go 3.5 stars B for the work. It was strong. There were some smart exchanges and sequences. But as a WrestleMania main event, this seriously disappointed. Not as bad as Cody and Cena last year, but exceedingly poor, and worse, nonsensical to what we had been watching on SmackDown for a month, which itself was terrible. And even worse than that, spoiler alert, most of the show Saturday was a disappointment. So it didn't even end on a high note where we could say, yeah, WrestleMania didn't really deliver, but the main event was awesome. It most certainly was not.
Whole thing felt like a Saturday night's main event by the end of it. The match itself, I thought the match was actually really good.
Yeah.
I know you said like the first half to 2/3 was boring. I saw storytelling. Like they were telling the story of Randy's back. Now, was it random? Because it had not been established other than WWE maybe leaking some stuff to the dirt sheets? Sure. But as for what the match itself was, that told a good story between these two guys. That was two pros who know what they're doing and can tell a story through the act of professional wrestling. And I really want to credit them for that because I actually thought the match itself was really good.
And sorry, I know I just spoke for 10 minutes. Let me interrupt you and say my distaste for the conceptualization may have affected my grade of the match because I do largely agree with you. I kept just saying, I really enjoyed the match, many parts of it. Maybe I need to regrade the match and grade it higher, and we do that on the second look. So what you're saying is very true. It was very entertaining and good wrestling.
And if you were doing the Cody heel turn, they were doing it in a very good way, and we thought it was coming.
It was coming, yeah.
One thing on Cody's hair, his hair also just looked longer, and it kind of looked like the Guile hair for the Street Fighter movie, because he's got that wig where his hair goes way up and out, but he wore that over the weekend or earlier in the week, but it looked like he almost still had it a little bit where his hair was kind of ploofing out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But so Cody had a great kick out on the RKO as well. That was really good. It's just the ending was so weird. And I come out of it just thinking was the idea Pat McAfee gets thrown into this, so we won't change the title. We'll just do a bit with Pat, then post WrestleMania, get back to the story we were telling anyway.
Yes, that's what I believe. Yes.
So that's not to say maybe, I don't know, if, we thought Randy should win this match. It made sense for a lot of reasons, and he doesn't. I don't know what Cody does from here. We've said this several times before. This is what Super Cena is. And if you were going to do the heel turn, you were doing it. And then to not do it was strange, and the punt and Cody's eyes messed up. So I don't know what I'm supposed to feel coming out of it. And the last line of the show after the punt is Cole saying something along the lines of, he can't believe he did this to his brother. Dude, a month ago, he bloodied Cody and stare-toed his face.
The punt,
Randy
though,
did not turn heel in this moment.
No, but the punt has always been the most extreme Orton thing. That has always been beyond the pale. The one thing he does that is unacceptable. Where you can accept that he's a psychopath and a viper and all that.
I know. It's just funny in the context of kayfabe, considering what he's already done.
It's true.
So, am I supposed to be happy Cody won because he attacked his opponent's weakness and low blowed him? And I don't know. That it was so weird. I remain this probably would have been okay too if it wasn't the main event. It was the other part. It's you'd have to, I don't know what you'd put in the main event otherwise, but it's such a weird way to end the show, because so much of the show, spoiler alert, with the way how quick and short all the matches were, is all right, it feels like they're fast forwarding through the rest of the show because something big's going to happen at the end of night one.
I thought this was going to be a 40-minute match with a 10-minute post match. Some huge angle was going to start. You don't want to assume The Rock, and I'm not disappointed The Rock didn't show up. I'm not trying to say that. I want to be clear, especially for everyone who's a first-time listener here. But what I'm saying is, I figured there was going to be the match would end, and I presumed Randy Orton would come out as champion, which it's fine that he's not. And then something would happen. Cody would get beaten so bad he was written off for an extended period of time, and the boos rained down because of that. Or someone surprising came out and aligned with Orton and helped him win, and they did a celebration or cut a promo in the post-match. It seemed like this was setting up to be something really great that was going to atone for 4 weeks of pure confusion on SmackDown and just dog shit booking. Let's just be completely clear about that. And the way Paul Levesque and Nick Khan both, I mentioned this on our Friday WrestleMania week wrap-up show. I'm going to quote them on Sunday show because I want to see what happens Sunday. Maybe night 2 is incredible and we have a different tone once all things are over. But they went out and said, no matter how you feel coming into WrestleMania, you're going to love this coming out of WrestleMania. And spoiler alert, after night 1, we ain't loving it.
No. And so like we came out of this main event in the exact same spot. Nothing changed. The story didn't change.
Except for McAfee going away, yeah.
Except for McAfee going away, which, by the way, he's done with pro wrestling now, right? That was the stipulation.
That was the stipulation.
Like, forever? Like, he's done.
He's out of the business, he said.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so, like, we'll see. That was strange.
And how do you believe that, considering WWE's relationship with ESPN and Pat being their biggest cheerleader next to, Joe Tessitore, who's employed by them also?
I'm not saying never use Pat McAfee. In fact,
no, but that's what he said. He said, I'm out of the business. He said, it's over.
Yeah. So, okay. I figured that. Like, I come out of this main event just so confused. And I know, like, I think we talked about this last year too. Like, we need to remember, like, WrestleMania is not the season finale for everything.
No.
Sometimes it's just the beginning or the first step into something else. And so I'm not saying we needed closure here, but I expected something here, and we didn't really get anything. We ended with Randy beating Cody to a pulp, which is how we started.
Yeah.
We're right back where we started.
What would be so interesting to know is what plans changed and what remained the same. Was Cody always supposed to win this match? If Pat McAfee wasn't involved, would he still have done that? Did they plant the story about McAfee being forced upon them at, let's say, a later juncture? Did they know that McAfee needed to be involved in this feud in December and this was always the plan? You know what I'm saying? So, like, those are so many things that are impossible for us to judge because we don't know the obstacles Paul Levesque was faced with or perhaps was not faced with. But even if he was told after Elimination Chamber that McAfee needed to be part of this storyline and this was what was booked to that end, there's no way you can judge it as positive. Like, I can't do it on the spot. I can come up with a dozen different storylines involving McAfee that would have allowed this to make more sense. And you know what, man? It may have been as simple. Like, even if, based on the whole phone call thing, like, that's the only way you can really get him involved, which it wasn't, but let's just make believe it is. If he just didn't cut the promos that he cut and didn't say the things that he said, which were nonsensical, stupid, and ridiculous, and they didn't focus the last month on Pat McAfee, if he was just another character in the background, like Lil Yachty to Trick Williams. I hate to keep using that match as a comparison, but Yachty's there. He's enhancing Trick. Trick is still the guy. This became a Cody Rhodes, Pat McAfee feud with a sprinkle of CM Punk and sprinkle of Jelly Roll. And then Matt Cardona was in there and Stephanie McMahon was in there when all it ever needed to be was Rhodes and Orton. And now we're coming out of WrestleMania, to your point, back where we were a month ago when we were enjoying this. But what's ahead? They have Backlash in Tampa 3 weeks from now. I don't even know the rest of the schedule. I think Night of Champions is coming up soon. Like, there's not another tentpole show.
That's supposed to be in Saudi Arabia.
Right, supposed to be. Who the hell knows if it's going to be? There's not another tentpole show to run this match until SummerSlam. Like, I'm talking about a big show. Yeah, so are you just going to run this in Saudi and that's it? And feud's over?
I mean, Cody won the title on SmackDown. Like, you can change the title on a non-tentpole show.
Yeah, because they wanted to do this. By the way, can we just admit a 4-way with Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre, even if Pat McAfee was the special guest referee, let's say, for some reason, would have kicked the shit out of this match and the McIntyre Fatu match?
Yeah, agree. I don't understand why they did this to Randy, kind of. And I said it on the preview, but like, he hasn't main evented Mania in a really long time.
And this is what 30, he got.
And they threw Daniel Bryan in. And the whole thing was he's not like the guy ever.
He's a B-side.
And we get this, and the story's not even about him. All the interviews Cody was doing leading into Mania were about Pat McAfee.
Yeah.
So I just felt like Randy didn't get his due, which I did appreciate. That's where you throw McAfee out at the beginning of the match.
Right.
And you let Randy be Randy. And you Cody was honoring Randy.
Mm-hmm.
Cody did all of Randy's moves in this match. Everything from from the backdrop on the table
Yep.
to the pit to the rolling pin, like did everything. So I thought that was a nice touch. And so we got to see Randy be Randy and have a good match. But I just we'll see what it is moving forward now. But if the whole thing is Cody's still the face and Randy's still the heel, why is Randy RKOing McAfee?
Right.
Like
precisely.
That's a babyface thing to do as the show started. So
Yeah.
I that's why I just come out of this so confused and I don't know what they were trying to get through.
Yeah. And by the way, WWE Backlash is in 3 weeks. And then 3 weeks after that is Clash in Italy. And between both of those is a Saturday night's main event. Now, that's okay because WWE only does, 5 matches per PLE. So, like, that really doesn't matter that much. But there are going to be 3 events in a basic 3-week span when you go Sunday to Sunday or whatever, all in May coming up. And those are the ones that exist. There's also Night of Champions that we expect to happen at some point before SummerSlam. But then SummerSlam is August 1st and 2nd. So, like, the opportunities are limited here, and is Cody going to be okay for Backlash? His eye was straight up shut. Now, that's just an eye. They can get the blood out and he'll be fine. But if that's a concussion or he got knocked in this match, like, who knows what's going to happen? So just extremely confounding. And that's really what's so frustrating about this, Vintage. It's if this all happened, this booking, without the McAfee and Jelly Roll of it all, it probably would have been okay to a degree. Like we'd say, oh, it was just the first match and they're going to go much deeper here. But it's because of that involvement and because the road was so soiled that we entered this show needing this to over-deliver, and it delivered as a match, under-delivered as a match, and the booking left us more confused than we were when we came in.
It delivered as wrestling, it very under-delivered as sports entertainment,
Right.
frankly.
Right.
I think what I hated most about this whole thing was the meta-ness of it all.
Totally.
Like, we had a real story between two guys who know each other. And instead, like, talking about dirt sheets in the IWC and people throwing Pat McAfee into the match and Cody talking so much about McAfee and not liking him when we know this is all fake. Like, and Cody going to McAfee's studio and
Taking
like,
his title
fake
back.
closed caption.
Yeah.
Like, it was just, it was just a bizarre turn. And I think of the last couple of WrestleManias, what worked and what didn't. What made WrestleMania 40 so perfect was how real it was. There was a real story there. Cody finishing the story of the title his dad never won. You can't do that every year. That's a generational.
Yeah, you can't force that. Yeah.
That's a generational story. But there was a real story here. And they just totally got away from it to, like, work the marks or something. And even, like,
but they didn't work anybody because they would have worked.
Well,
they would have. No, but I'm saying they would have worked the Smarks if it was good at the end. If they had a huge reveal at the end and everyone's like, oh, that's why they did it, and that was a great match, then okay, they worked people, but they didn't.
Well, they worked the marks in terms of leaking the Randy Orton injured part. I think.
Sure.
That was something that was out there. That
it was. That
very
was
much
bullshit.
clearly was just storyline. But so, like, I was just like, I just came in like, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish here? Are you trying to sell WrestleMania by having Pat McAfee tell us how terrible it is? We lost the point of what this is.
They
and
lost
we come
the plot.
out not knowing what the point of this is.
Yeah, they lost the plot entirely, and yeah, everything that you just said, like, they went meta with it, and then they went so meta with it, like some of those interviews I mentioned at the top of the show, where I was like, oh wow, like they're actually going to do something here. Like they may do that kayfabe 2.0 and really go deep in this, where TKO versus WWE, and there's forces trying to hold Cody down, and CM Punk feels those same forces because of the way Roman Reigns is speaking and how much the company values him. Like, it seemed like they might have actually done something. Now, it might have failed. It might have succeeded. Who knows? But it seemed like, you know what? There's at least a reason they're doing this. There's a concerted effort to tell a story and make all of this connect and have it be interesting.
Yeah.
And then we come out of Saturday night and none of that happened.
Even the video package, the only match that got a video package, at least on the main event, I didn't watch the pre-show. I don't know if they had more. This is the only one that got a pre-match video. But even that gave you like 10 seconds of Randy and Cody's history.
Right.
They show that one clip at the beginning from 2011.
But now we know why.
I get maybe
because they're going to they're going to do a 3-match series or something. I mean, clearly that's the reason why.
What I'm wondering, because the rest of it was just about what's happened recently. So are we going into 2-match, 3-match series? I don't know. I assume that's where we're going now.
It seems like it. Yeah.
But again, just a weird. It feels like we just delayed where we want to get to.
And like, how long is that going to last? Is the blow off going to be worth it? Because the blow off needs to be worth it if that's what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the other thing, like this 2-night stuff, the SummerSlam, we got surprises at the end of both nights.
Mm-hmm.
Last year's Mania, we got surprises, so to speak.
They forced
at the end of both end of both nights. So this is the first time in a while we're not ending the night. They didn't end the night with a kind of an oh my god moment, and I thought they were going to, because that's what they've been doing, and that's what they've been leaning into. It's like the most important thing. So to just kind of end with a wet fart was a very surprising thing. It's only night 1. We got night 2. Like the weekend's still going on, but really poor ending to what was really a poor show.
I didn't find the punt kick and all that to be poor necessarily. Like, it was a great visual of Orton at the end. The punt obviously is something he hadn't broken out in a while. I believe they thought that was obviously not the equivalent to an oh my god moment like what you're talking about, but a moment enough to end a WrestleMania. And I actually don't disagree with that. The problem with it was the logic of it all and how it didn't fit into everything that preceded it. He RKO's McAfee, who was a heel, helping him. Cody gets cheers and he gets boos and he gets punted. Like it's just, that was the problem with it. I think the concept of Orton still being a heel and turning even further heel and doing the punt, that to me was perfectly sound. It was just how they got there and everything around it that was frustrating. This was like 50% of a good idea. And the other half was terrible, basically.
Like, remember the Saturday Night's main event? Cody beats Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens could have won, but the referee was knocked out. Same situation as here. And that night ends with Kevin Owens breaking out the pile driver on Cody. Like, whole similar type of thing. But we didn't have the McAfee of it all. We didn't have Cody working heel in the match against Kevin Owens.
Exactly.
And so it just like kind of messes with what your brain is supposed to do.
It's those complicating factors that ruined what otherwise might have been a well-conceptualized match end story. But it was,
like, as we talk it out, you can kind of see it on paper.
You can, yeah.
But it's all the extraneous stuff that was the emphasis that kind of messed it up.
And it was the whole reason why everyone objected to this when it first started, because we saw that happening. Just like, not the same as the Travis Scott thing was far worse than this, but just like other situations that have transpired in the past, that being one of them, where it's like, you're giving us John Cena and Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. No, they atoned for it. We got the match at SummerSlam and it was incredible. And like, maybe,
however,
go ahead.
They did mess up the face turn by Cena.
No, it's totally screwed that up.
Him just like someone telling him to be good television.
Totally.
Which was freaking insane.
But that match did deliver though. I mean, we can shit on the heel turn and the storyline and all that. That match at SummerSlam was phenomenal, right? So it felt like they figured, well, at the end, we're still going to kill them with the match. Like, the fans are going to love that. They overcomplicated it, went too meta. McAfee was horrendous from a promo standpoint especially, but all of this was a failure. Look, we have a lot more to talk about. We spent, I think, longer on this than we both anticipated. We're going to get to all of that in a moment. I do need to remind you, though, right here, that at Getting Over, we are all in these days with NordVPN. It is easy to set up a drastically better viewing experience for WWE premium live events, Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. You get the same high quality streams, except they become commercial-free shows, at least when it comes to Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. We'll talk more about that at the end of this program. But all you have to do is sign up at nordvpn.com/gettingover, open the app, quick connect to another country like the United Kingdom or France, open Netflix, and watch a program like WrestleMania. We had a ton of signups on Saturday alone because people were frustrated with what was happening with ESPN. NordVPN also allows you to get around online censorship and surveillance, protect your private data when web browsing, and one account can be used on 10 different devices. To get the best discount, go to nordvpn.com/gettingover. Our link will give you 4 extra free months off the 2-year plan. There's no risk, nor does a 30-day money-back guarantee. So improve your WWE viewing, and no matter what, save some money. Browse safer online. Get the best discount for the best VPN at nordvpn.com/gettingover. We love having NordVPN as the official singular sponsor of your boys right here at the Getting Over Wrestling Podcast. Moving on to what was indeed the co-main event, Women's World Championship, Stephanie Vaquer defending against Liv Morgan. Liv did her trouble music video choreography, ring entrance. She got stripped by the other women dancers, revealing nude-colored ring gear, and yeah.
Gonna look good, but she's got me saying, hey now!
And just as a notice to everyone, we are holding the Hey Now Championship matches until Tuesday's Raw after WrestleMania show, when we have a lot more time on our hands. We have to get through this instant analysis, but Liv Morgan will be a contender. Of course, the reigning champion is Stephanie Vaquer. Stephanie got a ton of confetti with a botched camera angle for the growing of her horns during her entrance, but visually it did look great. Would have been better at night. Of course, Liv also continued selling the bruising from 2 weeks ago. She was mostly fresh-faced. She didn't wear a lot of makeup during this. Morgan took Devil's Kiss only a few minutes into the match, which immediately concerned me. She ate a double underhook facebuster after that. Liv escaped SVB and hit a backbreaker, only to take a backbreaker and her own oblivion for a false finish. Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez came out to distract less than 6 minutes into the match. That allowed Morgan to hit Oblivion for a false finish. Stephanie dodged a Liv attempt at Oblivion, leading to an unintentional tope suicida on her partners, followed by a springboard crossbody from Vaquer into Judgment Day. Morgan caught Vaquer, threw her into the steel steps, hit a code breaker, and a second Oblivion to win the title in about 8 or 9 minutes. The first that we are covering on this show of many disappointments on WrestleMania. This match just started kicking into third gear, and it ended immediately. The shortest women's world title match at WrestleMania in nearly a decade. This was particularly infuriating because it was actually the co-main event of night one. It was in its appropriate spot, and it was concluding a white-hot feud that was the best-built match involving women on the entire two-night card. Yet they couldn't even be afforded 10 minutes, and that would be low. 12, 14, 16 is what they should be getting. It was full of brainless interference that you see on Raw every week. This match wasn't given enough time for a Raw, let alone a WrestleMania. If Judgment Day had been thrown out after their interference, and this got another 5 or 7 minutes, that would have been something. I'm happy for Liv that she won, and Stephanie did look formidable throughout. But how can you really accomplish much in 8 minutes? Did we really need a 4-minute entrance from Liv before an 8-minute match? Could you not have cut that in half and given the match 10 minutes? The third time we're seeing this song Trouble being played. And why could this hot feud with these women knocking down and dragging each other out not have received a legitimate, long, deep conclusion because of their immense hatred for one another? Probably with an appropriate stipulation too. I went 3.5 stars B because what we got was really solid between them, but it wasn't anywhere near enough.
There were 7 matches on this card. 4 of them were 9 minutes or less.
Unbelievable. 3 of those were women's
and this
matches.
was the 4th of 6 up to this point. 6 matches
Yeah.
on the show, 4 of them 9 minutes or less. And the reason, not saying it's a good reason, they want a 4-hour show. And this ended up being about a 4-hour show. The problem is you got about almost 10 minutes, it seems like, between every match.
Oh, way more
dragged
than
out
that.
for commercials and all this kind of crap. It cuts into the wrestling. I think the final number was like 85 minutes of total wrestling.
It's more than that, and I have the numbers for the end of the show. It's a little bit more than that, but not much more.
So, like, and this took the brunt of that more
This was
than any
offensive.
other.
Yeah.
Now, when it started, it immediately, they're going at each other, and I'm like, okay, good. This is how it should start. Like, these two really hate each other.
Right.
They've been going crazy. That's how it should start, with that energy. But in hindsight, I just wonder if they were just trying to fit it all in and we get past the start and just go into it. So, like, what they did was good, but we got so little of it. When Liv won, I was like, oh, wait, really? Like, it wasn't like didn't build to a moment because it didn't have time to build to a moment. It's a championship match that had a great story, a hot feud coming in. This is supposed to be one of your crowning moments for Liv.
Mm-hmm.
I know she's won the title before, but she's never won it at Mania.
She was the Royal Rumble winner.
Moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you put all this into her, and you give her that. It's just it's insulting to everybody.
Yeah, when that finish happened, I said to myself live, I said it out loud. My dog can attest to it. I said, don't tell me that's the finish. And it was literally the finish. Like, it seemed like if she had kicked out of that, then they get another 5 minutes and you go, oh, okay, like, yeah, that's a pretty damn good match. But that was it. And everything that you said is true. Like, they invested so much time into Liv this character. They've built her up into a top woman in this company. She won the Royal Rumble after years of not being able to do that. That was a storyline on its own. This was red hot between them. They actually hated each other. It wasn't put on hatred like you see in so many other wrestling feuds. I mean, it's all put on, obviously, but you didn't feel that. It felt real. They were violent. Liv got a hematoma on her head, and 2 black eyes.
By the way, I do feel bad for her that this is like kind of her career highlight to this point.
She was bruised up.
and she had to spend the whole week on ESPN and this just looking bruised up.
Well, she chose, though. I mean, she could have done makeup and hidden some of it. She chose not to. She wanted to sell it.
Yeah, some of it.
Credit to her,
some
I
of
think.
It you can't. Some of it you can't hide. I was just like, maybe she was fine. Maybe she wanted it. Maybe she liked it. I don't know. But for a lot of people who don't follow wrestling, to turn on ESPN and see this woman with a bruised face talking to whoever on First Take, I think it was a bit jarring. But
I kind of like that aspect. I got to be honest with you.
I don't think that if she had the real option to not have that, maybe she wouldn't. Maybe she would have, but maybe not.
It's a good question to ask her, is certainly what I think. But yeah, everything that you said, like, it was such a great opportunity to establish her, to have Stephanie get this great moment where as a wrestler, she shines even in a loss. This accomplished nothing. All it did was change the title. It didn't make Liv look good. I mean, she had double interference. I could talk about this forever. It's such a disappointment.
I do think like they made Liv feel like a big deal and that she was everywhere in the highlight and got the music video, but you could have done more with the wrestling. She's a really good wrestler and we should have gotten more of that. 2, also going to be in that next championship match for the Hey Now, Roxanne Perez.
I'll have to go back and look at that. I didn't notice.
Really. Oh, yeah, you will.
That's my fault. What you said, though, Liv, they've done such a good job building her, building the feud, building Stephanie, and making this into... There's 4 women's matches on this WrestleMania card. Now, let me be clear. I heard there could have been as many as 6 at one point, but 5 was the number I heard was going to happen. There's only 4. This was the best built out of all of them. This was your tentpole women's match for both nights. And it got 8 to 9 minutes.
It did technically get the most time of the 3.
The best match last year at WrestleMania, Chris, was what?
The women's triple threat.
The women's triple threat. The champion in that match, not on the show at all. Not booked. The challenger in that match, one of them, Rhea Ripley, again a challenger in the worst booked women's feud of this WrestleMania. And the third person has been out for a calendar year, and we're about to talk about her. The best match last year. That is the way those 3 women have been positioned. One, of course, Bianca Belair. Not her fault, of course.
Also, that match went almost 15 minutes last year.
It did. Yes, it did. And that wasn't a main event. It was an opener, and we're going to get to that too. After Cena came back out to announce the attendance of night 1, 50,800 and something. I think actually I do know the number, 50,816. Bianca Belair made a surprise return with her music getting a massive pop from the crowd nearly a year to the day of her last appearance as a cleared wrestler participating in that triple threat. She said she had one more WrestleMania surprise to announce, and then she unzipped her rather large gown, which I noticed in that moment, like, oh, wow, she is overdressed a little bit, to reveal a big, pregnant belly. But I say that, obviously, respectfully. I also will note, I've never seen this before, Chris. I think she had, like, abs still. I don't even know how that's possible. So, Cena, I don't know. This had to have been planned. There's no way this was improv.
Yes.
Cena.
This is the whole bit.
It had to have been the whole bit. Yeah, thank you. Okay, because he played it off like he was surprised, and he did a good job at that. But he comes over, and he's like, well, I guess I got the attendance figure wrong. It's actually 50,817 because I guess, Chris, in WWE, attendance begins at conception. So congratulations to Bianca and Montez Ford. Obviously unfortunate for us selfishly as fans that we have to probably wait another year for her to get back into the ring, if that. But their personal bliss supersedes our selfishness. Obviously, it's going to be crazy when that baby main events WrestleMania in 2052.
Congrats to Montez and Bianca. Very exciting, very cool for them. It did just look funny to me, Bianca revealing like her pregnancy to John Cena in the ring. Like, just I was like, what is going on? And then when the attendance thing happened, I was like, oh, okay, that's the bit. That's what
it was pretty funny.
Also, Bianca's fingers were still taped. and she looks pretty darn pregnant. And so you got to say, like, if there was a time to have a baby in wrestling, it's when you're dealing with a serious enough injury that doesn't impact your day-to-day life, but keeps you out of wrestling.
Well,
so,
she just had her most recent finger surgery, like, within the last 2 months or so. I don't know anything about medicine, so, don't quote me or whatever. I thought that if you were pregnant, you had to be very careful about having, like, elective surgeries and stuff, but maybe it wasn't elective. Like, maybe it was risking permanent damage, so that's why they had to do it. I can't even, say for sure. But maybe a doctor listening, we have plenty of them, I'm sure, can explain that and give us some context, and we can talk about it on Tuesday. Anyway, a lot more to talk about. Jacob Fatu versus Drew McIntyre in an unsanctioned match. On SmackDown, Fatu received a police car escort into the arena, emerging from the back seat, climbing onto the roof to cut a promo as the lights flashed. Jacob spoke calmly, saying he's not ashamed that he used to be a criminal, but he doesn't live that life anymore, and Drew failed trying to embarrass him last week in front of his family. Fatu said even the Popo know that he's a different guy, but McIntyre is overlooking that they couldn't even stop Fatu if they wanted because this is an unsanctioned match. There is no one to save Drew. Jacob then brought the camera close and repeated himself before saying he was going to put Drew in his rear view, just like his criminal past. Then he promised to dog walk him. Strong in conception, solid but hardly perfect in execution. The visual was great, and what Fatu said in concept was fine. This was lacking something. Perhaps it was the lack of crowd response. SmackDown was not energetic on Friday. McIntyre wasn't at the show. In fact, he cut a far, far better promo laying in his hotel bed on social media than anything that happened Friday night on TV. That was absolutely wild to me. And it just goes to show they can push McIntyre to the side as much as they want. He is so much better than so many different people they push. It is blatantly obvious.
Agree on that point. I thought it was good from Jacob. It felt like them saying, all right, this is going to be the end of the he used to be in jail bit.
Right.
That is kind of becoming the defining feature for Jacob Fatu. Like, I think everybody kind of wants to move past that now, and this was kind of a way to say that.
So this was the second match on the card, also on ESPN2. Fatu got a Samoan fire dance entrance, which was sick, even in the daytime. Bit of a Samoan SWAT team homage with his gear as well. McIntyre's entrance included a door that got, like, soldered open as if it was a safe or something. Other than that, pretty typical. He brought the Claymore, so I thought, you know what? Unsanctioned match. Maybe someone's finally going to get stabbed, So Fatu immediately unloaded a toolbox, which shook McIntyre. I loved that. Jacob took a header into the base of the ring apron, only for Drew to indeed bring out a Slim Jim table, as I joked about on the Ultimate Preview. He again took a social media moment with his brother in the crowd, grabbed the phone, then he used the phone as a weapon. 4 minutes for this match to get underway. This is finally when, like, the work started. McIntyre took an impressive pop-up Samoan drop, only to give Fatu a header into the top of the ring post, a full-release German suplex, and a tope con hero. Jacob avoided Claymore, ran Drew headfirst into a steel chair, hit the mighty moonsault for a false finish, the first kick out of that move. McIntyre kneecapped Fatu with a wrench, then used it on his head, did a suplex into 2 open chairs, which didn't land all the way, but one did get bent. He stole the referee's belt. Dan Engler was in a black shirt because it was unsanctioned, but Fatu whipped him hard 6 times instead. Fatu grabbed the toolbox. McIntyre avoided it with a counter Claymore for a false finish. Jacob tried setting Drew up for a moonsault on the table, but Drew threw a chair at him, pushed him off the ropes through a ringside table. Fatu finally landed the toolbox shot to the head, and he put Drew on the table, hitting mighty moonsault through it to win in 14 minutes. Solid match. Did not live up to the unsanctioned stipulation. It was basically a Street Fighter no holds barred equivalent. WWE, they use blood capsules on TV all the time. And at the time I wrote this note, the main event had not happened. I guess they didn't want to double it up, even though one was 3.5 hours before the other. There probably should have been some type of blood, or if not, some level of gruesomeness here. The finish came far too quickly, particularly after Fatu's table bump. And while the storytelling with the toolbox was a real nice touch, it was strange to have this match be so short, given it was such a heated feud. And there were like 4 extra minutes on the back end of this with cushion before WrestleMania left ESPN2 to go to the premium component on the app. If this had been a SmackDown main event, it would have hit hard. It did not live up to my high expectations because McIntyre always delivers on a big stage. It just left something to be desired running only 14 minutes. It felt like a facsimile of the Damian Priest match last year. I know we made those comparisons with the build, I didn't expect the match to be almost the same thing, but it basically was. Probably they should have saved the handcuff stuff for WrestleMania and not used it on television. The stipulation and this being on TV did them no favors. It raised expectations far too high. Yet I still enjoyed it. It was probably the second best match on the card, maybe third best if I reevaluate the main event. 3.75 stars B+.
It was good. It was fine. Like, the guys did good work. Like, the bump of Fatu going off the turnbuckle through the table outside, like the way he had to contort his body.
That was great.
To land that was pretty gnarly, pretty great stuff from Jacob Fatu there. It felt like, like unsanctioned match. Like, that is supposed to be one of the highest levels of like, all right, we can't control these guys anymore. We're just going to let them go. But this kind of basically starting with this, us kind of meta knowing it's on ESPN2, so there's really going to be a limit. You kind of, maybe that's not fair to those guys, but we have that in our head. And it felt like they got time here, but it also felt like, they have an out at the top of the hour. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of there too. Like, it was okay. I just think, I don't know. I think they were put in a difficult position more than anything else, given what it was and where it was. It's about what I expected.
Like, I have much higher hopes for Obafemi and Brock Lesnar because that is going to be short-ish, even if it's 8-9 minutes. Like, that would be long for that match. And there's no unsanctioned stipulation. So they just got to go out there and do a couple cool moves and set it up properly. These guys, because of the stipulation, there was an expectation of violence that was not delivered upon. If this had been, I hate Last Man Standing, okay? But if it had been Last Man Standing or Falls Count Anywhere or something, I believe it actually would have worked a lot better with a simpler stipulation because there wouldn't have been an expectation of craziness. When you are calling something unsanctioned and the referee is wearing a black shirt, he's not wearing the logo, and you're making a big deal that he's only there to count the 1, 2, 3, then you are setting an expectation that this is going to be something outside of what we normally see from WWE in street fights, no holds barred, Falls Count Anywhere, and Last Man Standing. Instead, it was just one of those matches.
Yes, I think Falls Count Anywhere would have been good. It would have allowed them to kind of have some more fun instead of having to be violent.
Absolutely.
And I'll say more after the opening 6-man tag, but I didn't think this was a good decision and kind of what they put on the ESPN's versus main card, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. But I'll save that for that one.
Sure. We have a few more matches to talk about before we get to it. I do need to remind you here at Getting Over,
I happen to love the number 5.
And I hope you do as well. For $5 a month or $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. This is a free show. We don't really have advertising, one sponsor. All we ask is that you guys support us financially a little bit, keep the lights on, and allow us to keep delivering this performance-enhancing audio to your ear holes. buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Intercontinental Championship, AJ Lee defending against Becky Lynch. The only notable moment from the entire WrestleMania kickoff on Friday was a terrific back and forth between AJ and Becky that I thought stole the show. Their last 3 or 4 segments together, after a couple months of it like not being great, they really, hunkered down and figured out exactly what their characters need to be. So credit to them for doing that. Lynch came out to a live performance, quote unquote, from the Wonder Years. It was not a live performance. It was lip synced and whatever the equivalent of that is for music, like drum synced as well. I could not understand this decision making. What is the point of bringing in a band if they're not going to actually play? Living Color played. The Rhea Ripley band, I don't forget. I'm not a metal fan, so I'm forgetting the name. Something in White, whatever that's called.
Oh, Motionless in White.
Motionless in White. They played live. Why couldn't Wonder Years played live? Chris, am I crazy, or was this not like extremely strange?
It was. I think he may have been singing. A lot of times, singers will have like
the backing track.
The backing track, like the music's played, but they're singing over it, and it sounded a little bit different. So maybe they were. But you missed the first note. It's the beginning of the song. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, it's your song, bro. Yeah.
And so from the very beginning, it just was weird and awkward and unfortunate because, again, I think it's a good song. I like it. I still don't know if it's a wrestling entrance theme.
Not.
But it's a cool song. It's cool. All the Becky and Seth stuff that are in it. But awkward start to this.
And it's nice to have a live band at WrestleMania. Like, it's cool that they got the opportunity and she deserves the entrance. She's Becky Lynch. Do the entrance. Like, what are we doing here? Lee's entrance featured a bunch of young girls dressed in her old attire, skipping on stage. Thought that was really cute. It was also a harbinger, Chris, because every time there's an entrance involving kids, that person loses. It is historic in WWE. I thought it would have been really funny. They wouldn't have done this if Rue was one of the girls skipping with AJ, because they made a whole thing about how she's her favorite wrestler.
I don't know how old she is.
She's old enough to skip. I mean, she was younger than all those girls, but still, like, yeah. Anyway, Corrupt Carr was not only the referee, she was occasionally a part of this match. Restringing a turnbuckle pad, Becky removed early. AJ hit a standing sliced bread only to eat a power slam coming back. Lynch then countered Black Widow with a swing into the turnbuckles, hitting manhandle slam for a false finish. Carr screamed at Lynch and they shoved each other. But when Becky perhaps tried to spear her, AJ caught her instead with a surprise manhandle slam. When AJ finally locked in Black Widow, Becky grabbed her hair, got a rope break, and pulled off the turnbuckle pad. Then she grabbed Carr as Lee charged at her. AJ ran into Jessica. Bex slammed AJ's head into the exposed turnbuckle and hit manhandle slam for the win in around 8 minutes. Enjoyed the finish. I thought it was simultaneously their best match together from a fluidity standpoint, but it was also rough because half the match was about Lynch and Carr, and this was supposed to be the blow-off to Becky and AJ. It's really frustrating when you consider the length and depth of this feud. That's not to mention the short runtime. When we know AJ can work a full match now, she did it with Bayley on television. So if she's getting that much time with Bayley at WrestleMania with Becky, and I'm not disparaging Bayley, but it's Becky Lynch, and it's for the title at WrestleMania, why are you not going longer than the TV match that was quality? 8 minutes for this was insanely short. 12 would have been short. I thought we were getting 14 to 16 minutes. The combined entrances were probably as long as the match itself. It's nearly impossible to analyze something when there's no content to review. Lynch regaining the title was the right move. Her being the 3-time champion when no one else has more than one, that's cool. Hopefully this division opens back up again in a major way and becomes a highlight of Raw like it used to be. But I got a suspicion we might be getting a Becky and Jessica feud. And again, that's something you and I have said we want because it would be interesting, but it shouldn't be around a title, not with a champion. That should be when she doesn't have the championship, right? This was a B match, 3.25 stars due to the short runtime. It was very fun. I thought the work was great, but it was 8 minutes. We got nothing. And for WrestleMania, I mean, what are we doing?
Of all the matches to go short, this was the one I was the most okay with because AJ's never been the best worker. Like I would have wanted more. Obviously, give me 10 minutes at least. But like, if something had to be shortchanged, this would be the one. They've wrestled before. The chemistry it's okay, but it's not. AJ and Bayley just worked better too. I think just sometimes the chemistry is what it was. Becky's amazing. Mm-hmm. Good for what it was. I didn't expect much more than that. Honestly, it was kind of really right along the lines of what I expected. The only thing was the finish was a little bit weird because she pulls Jessica Carr into her and AJ runs into Jessica Carr, but within, a few seconds, Jessica Carr is ready to do the 1, 2, 3. I was thinking that was going to be ref is knocked out. And then more shenanigans start happening. If it was going to end right there, just move out of the way, have AJ run into the exposed turnbuckle and do the finish. I thought that was a little weirdly convoluted. They really leaned into the Jessica Carr Becky stuff the first half of this, which I was kind of annoyed with. I was like, guys, Becky, AJ's a great story here. Can we get away from that? They eventually got back to it, and that's good, and it was fine. I'm done booking Jessica Carr or Nick Aldis into things. We keep doing it and it's not happening. So I'll just wait till it happens. I don't want to, I'm not going to pretend I fantasy book that anymore. And frankly, I don't even know if I want it. Like, she's a really good referee. I think it's weird it would be kind of weird, but maybe she wants to pivot and be a wrestler or something. I don't know. But in terms of
it would be a one-off. We've seen that happen before. And Becky is the type of heel to make that work with her. It's just, she shouldn't be doing it as Intercontinental Champion.
I just don't like in kayfabe the idea that a referee would have any shot against Becky Lynch. I know she's a wrestler and all that stuff,
Right.
but on television she has not been.
Right,
So
right.
that would be it'd be like having a YouTuber come in and compete with pro wrestlers or something like that.
Mhm.
But the AJ Becky of it all, it was fine. It was good. It was what I expected.
Seth Rollins versus Gunther. Rollins got a really unique entrance with a mask and jacket that billowed smoke and some dark coverings over his eyes, which he slickly removed before getting into the ring. At this point, and I can now say this through the end of the show, Rollins, Chris, had my favorite entrance of the entire night.
I think so too. It was cool and
just
interesting
cool.
without being like over the top.
Yeah, it was just like different enough, cool enough. We said, oh, I'm going to remember that. And like Cody's was cool too, because Cody's was probably the second best, but it's Cody. It's over the top. Rollins was like
Cody,
exactly for him,
That Cody entrance should have been like the entrance for his retirement match. I don't know how you top
Yeah.
that for a career retrospective.
Oh, they'll figure it out. Gunther attacked at the end of the entrance with a powerbomb, which led to a ringside brawl. Seth threw fans' chairs into the ringside area. Rollins flicked off Gunther, and then the match began 2 minutes after it really started. Rollins impressively slipped out of a superplex up and over for a strong buckle bomb across the ring. Seth tried to respond to every chop, only to eat a powerbomb stack. Gunther twice escaped the pedigree, only to take a third attempt off a counter with a stomp chaser for a false finish. This was at the match's 11-minute mark. Gunther avoided an avalanche stop and countered out of a pinning combination into a sleeper hold that Seth escaped with 2 discus forearms, only to get leveled with a lariat. Rollins prevented the splash with a jump-up superplex into a Falcon Arrow, moved into his own sleeper for a rope break. Rollins followed with 2 tope suicidas, but Gunther caught a third for powerbombs first into the apron and then into the side of the announce table. Rollins then countered a powerbomb on the announce table into a pedigree. Then he cleared off the Spanish announce table to hit a running stomp on Gunther. Except as he jumped down and started celebrating on the other side of the ring, Braun Breaker charged all the way down the ramp and around the ring, spearing him to hell, his soul removed from his body. Now, the reason that this worked, I saw some consternation about this. The referee was checking on Gunther, and Rollins was all the way around the ring when it happened. So there's no way the referee could have seen this. Therefore, Breaker got away with it. Both of them back in the ring, Rollins and Gunther. Gunther locked in the sleeper. Rollins passed out. Lost in 18 minutes, but it was really 20 minutes of total action, including the pre-match. And there was post-match as well, which meant it lasted even longer. So Rollins is there selling the injuries after the bell, the bottom of the ramp. Breaker runs back down, hits him with half a spear that had the impact of a full spear, because if he had hit him with a regular spear at full speed and power, Rollins might have died. Like, I don't know.
It would have killed him.
It would have killed him. So Rollins got scared a little bit, fair. But Breaker also wasn't trying to hit him full on. It was still a great spot. The dude's a tackling monster. I don't blame either of them for not doing a regular spear.
That was maybe one of the coolest camera shots of the whole show, was Breaker running down the ramp for the spear. That was really well done. But yes, he had to deliver the Bobby Lashley glancing spear, or otherwise Seth Rollins would have died.
He would have died. As simple as that. Now, look, predictable finish to the point that we spelled it out exactly as it went down on the Ultimate Preview. But yeah, sometimes predictable things are good. Rollins was not about to beat Gunther, fresh off retiring 3 legends in a row at WrestleMania of all places. Yet the way this was booked, Rollins twice looked as if he had Gunther defeated. First in the ring, and then again with a similar sequence on the announce table. Really, Seth can only blame his own bravado, because he put himself in a position where Braun could do that to him without a DQ ending the match. These two, Rollins and Gunther, had the crowd in a frenzy, and it proved the axiom I state all the time.
We're wrestlers in a wrestling ring. Let's just freaking wrestle.
It was the third to last match on the show. It was the first one that actually featured wrestling in a significant way. It met my high expectations. It did not exceed them, which only could have happened with another 5 minutes and a squeaky clean finish. It was a no-doubter A. Due to the Breaker interference, I got to go 4.25 stars. Still, the crowd was whipped into a frenzy because they actually got to watch 2 workers work, which did not happen over the first 2 hours of WrestleMania on Saturday. And while it did happen again in the main event, it was soiled by everything that we discussed earlier. This was booked perfectly, really well done. The only note is I wish Rollins had sold a little bit better for Gunther, especially some of those power bombs outside the ring. But other than that, literally no notes. Great match. Best part of the show.
Best part of the show, match of the night. Fans are there to watch wrestlers wrestle. Like,
it's WrestleMania.
This is the takeaway from this show. This was the hottest the crowd was maybe all night because they were doing really good pro wrestling. That's what this is about. That's what people want to see. That's what gets the crowd going. That's what you're supposed to give them. Not so much of the other stuff. I know this is a spectacle and that's always been part of the show. There was just so much just nonsense around this show that cut into so many matches that when you see a good match that gets time, people then get it builds. Wrestlers are not supposed to wrestle 8-minute matches. They're supposed to go longer because you're supposed to tell a story that they get invested in, and they did here. This match was fantastic other than the last 3 seconds, because you know how they ended this. They ended it with a sleeper, and they didn't end it with the 3-arm drop. They did the thing. We have seen Gunther have a sleeper on people and do the arm drop. McAfee did it when he wrestled Gunther. Why are we not doing that? If you only do it when the guy's going to put the arm up at 3, then it doesn't mean anything. It's such an easy storytelling device. Imagine the 1-2, like they do these like pass outs as a way to like protect people, and instead it just makes for a deflating finish. Yes, it's not. God, man, it was right there. Just do the 3. I know he was like on his side and Gunther had his leg.
No, you're right.
It, but
you're right though.
The other arm that was down on the canvas, you could have lifted at least the forearm up and like, it's just annoying.
Let me ask you a question. What were the 2 best matches at WrestleMania 41?
The women's triple threat and
the men's triple threat.
The men's triple threat main event.
Right. How long did those matches go? You don't have to answer that. 14:25 for the women.
I have it pulled up.
Right, 14:25 for the women, 32:55 for the men. Why were those the 2 best matches on the show? Why were the two most memorable moments of the show? Because they were allowed to wrestle. And you know what else was really good on that show? Like Drew McIntyre, Damian Priest, 14 minutes. They were allowed to wrestle. It's really not a difficult calculus, man. Like you have to allow people to go out there and put in the work. If you are not going to do it on television, if you are not going to do it on some of the other B-level PLEs, which sometimes they do, you have to do it at WrestleMania. This is the show where the wrestlers wrestle and they settle feuds and they win titles and they get big crowning moments and they take you on emotional journeys through their in-match storytelling. This match did that. And there wasn't even that much storytelling in the match. Yet it still was good because they told their story the best they could as it was going.
Tony Khan, he's right. That AEW is where the best wrestlers.
Because they actually wrestle.
Because they get to wrestle.
They actually get to wrestle. Women's Tag Team Championship, Irresistible Forces defending against Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair, the Bella Twins and Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. There was an extremely rough 4-way AEW-style promo package that was not only incredibly scripted, but done in a way where each team somehow knew what the other was saying, despite all of them being taped separately. Brie Bella spoke on her own, basically saying Nikki was rehabbing and trying to get back. And then on SmackDown, Bayley and Lyra were scheduled to fight Charlexa. The latter team promised to remain best friends no matter what happens, reminiscing about how far they have come over the last year. Flair then focused on winning more gold, so Bliss scoffed at her in like typical Charlotte fashion. The 4 brawled before the bell. The Forces then got involved. The match never started. The crowd went from excited for the match, 4 women they wanted to see wrestle, to completely dead for this segment. Valkyria ate the Force's new elevated leg drop finisher to end it. Horrific booking, like the whole show on Friday night, Chris. I could not believe this is what they thought was a good go-home for the Women's Tag Team Championships.
It's almost as if the fans wanted to see wrestlers wrestle.
Yeah. Don't forget what I just said. Valkyria ate the Force's finisher at the end of that segment. So moving to WrestleMania. Charlexa both came out wearing wings. Bliss back holding Lily for some reason. All I could think was, really? The veterans jacked the wings from Lyra, who does it for every one of her big matches. It's her whole effing gimmick, and she doesn't get the wings at WrestleMania. They do? They couldn't have thought of something else.
Alexa's, I'm fairly certain, was a Bray Wyatt tribute. She was being a Firefly, I think.
in all white like that?
And so I guess Charlotte to match her comes out as a butterfly or whatever.
Okay, if she was doing
But they can all wear wings.
It's tough. It's tough to argue with that. Like, it's a really good thing if it's a Firefly for Beret. Like, okay, that's kind of cool. But like, it's Lyra's gimmick.
Well, Lyra should have been able to have wings. That's the problem.
That's what I'm saying. It's oh God, like you're killing this girl. They're killing her. I swear to God. So the Bella Twins enter. Nikki comes out with her foot booted, using a crutch on the opposite arm. Did you notice that? She has a boot on her left foot. She has the crutch on her right arm. So she's walking normally with her left foot. I'm like, what are you doing? I've never, knock on wood, I'm going to knock on wood for real. Hopefully my dog doesn't start barking. I've never had something like that happen. One time I had a really, really bad sprained ankle where like they say you actually fracture your ankle, and I did have to use a crutch. I couldn't imagine using it on the wrong side of my body. I was floored seeing her walk out like that. Like,
as someone who has broken their ankle once and had crutches, usually you do 2 crutches because
right.
It's easier.
Yeah.
She should have just done 2. I don't know what. 1 is more difficult than any of them.
But if you're doing 1, you're doing it by the foot that hurts you. So Nikki grabs a mic. She says she couldn't leave Brie hanging. So she called an old friend and they introduced a returning Paige, Saraya, to a huge pop. She looked incredibly fit. She has been gone from WWE for 8+ years, more than 3,000 days. Yet she's only 33 years old. That is insane, okay? The match was contested the right way with 4 legal women. My hopes were raised. That hasn't happened in a long time. Legend hit a pair of one-arm power bombs off the ropes. Paige had a damn good hot tag, then countered Nightwing into Paige Turner for a broken fall. Lyra then took Lash Extension, a finisher, for another broken fall before Paige and Charlotte squared off in an aura moment. Flair hit Natural Selection. Nikki pulled Charlotte out of the ring as Twisted Bliss was being attempted and hit her with a crutch. That delay led to Paige getting her knees up, hitting Rampage, with the Legends becoming the new women's tag team champions. I was simultaneously furious and happy when the final bell rang. Furious because the only salvageable story for this entire division, which has been completely ruined by the dissolution of Rio, was Bayley and Lyra finally getting the win they deserved a year ago before Bayley got pulled from WrestleMania 41. 12 months later, they had a perfect feel-good story that was being told all for this moment. And then they didn't pull the trigger. So the question stands, were the Bellas always going to win this match? Or did the insertion of Paige lead to a change of plans? If it's the latter and they changed plans, I get it. Paige got the loudest reaction, both upon returning and in the match. The crowd was red hot for her. She looked great. The moment of her winning hit. If it was always the plan for them to go with the Bellas instead of Bayley and Lyra, that is infuriating. I don't know the answer to that. Hopefully, Bayley and Lyra are the team to beat Brie and Paige and establish themselves by taking down a pair of legends. Valkyria, taking 2 finishers here, did not inspire confidence in that, especially after she took the finisher on SmackDown 2. Booking decision aside, the work was a mixed bag. Paige was the featured act. It did not feel like there was a story told or anything memorable from a wrestling standpoint. I wish I had more to say. This wound up being all about Paige, not a division that had busted its asses to, at one point, be the best thing in the company until a couple of months ago. Instead, for the second year in a row, a makeshift surprise team won the titles on the biggest show of the year. Bayley and Lyra being marginalized, it really hurt the match quality as well. They were the best workers. They should have been carrying this. The short run time did not help either. 3 stars B-, that even might be generous.
I'm like you. I'm of 2 minds. 1, great to see Paige back. Like you said, she's still young. She retired from WWE all those years ago because of neck issues.
25 years old.
She eventually came back in AEW. Was like hit and miss here or there. Had a really cool moment at Wembley at All In when she won one of the women's titles. But then left there and had been doing some podcast stuff. And you figured she's probably going to make at least one more return in WWE at some point. So great to see her back. Who knows how long she can go, but awesome. Love Paige. But yes, you've just, for the second time in the last calendar year, just kind of like nuked any semblance of a women's tag division by just putting in a makeshift team. A year ago, Bayley gets knocked out of that tag match, replaced by Becky Lynch. Becky and Lyra win. And a night later, Becky and Lyra for no goddamn reason. And they start their own feud. So right then and there, they told you the women's tag titles actually don't like mean anything, really. And they spent the last 6+ months really building it into something really strong with so many good teams. We couldn't believe it. And then over the last month or two, really started to squander all that momentum. And what did we say coming into this? We said they're kind of just stumbling and crashing going into Mania, but they can land the plane by finishing this Bayley Lyra story. Bayley being left off of Mania was a storyline on Unreal last year, as was Lyra for her situation at SummerSlam.
With Becky Lynch and the handcuffs or the zip ties.
They had told the story on screen of the two of them coming together and getting their moment after being overlooked or pushed aside, only to be overlooked and pushed aside for a makeshift team that isn't a team that also won thanks to some heel tactics from Nikki Bella hitting somebody with a crutch. So, like, am I supposed to feel happy about that? I guess, like, because I'm happy for her, but
yeah, it was a heel win.
It's like,
right.
It's like the same thing. We're doing the same thing again. Now, could Bayley and Lyra do the same thing and win the titles back on Raw on Monday? Like, maybe, hopefully. But even still, you just totally blew a real opportunity to establish your women's tag team division again. Paige can come back a million different ways and get a big pop. She doesn't have to win. Like, it's very disappointing. Yes, it's a moment, and that's apparently all that matters anymore is making WrestleMania moments. But
I also don't hate it because of her history too. Like, she debuted on Raw, beat AJ Lee for the title. Like,
she debuted on the Raw after Mania.
Yeah,
that would have been a great place to do it.
Well, then you would have had to have AJ retain over Becky.
Well, you could have AJ win or have her go after Becky or whatever.
Or have her go after
show
Becky.
Up or something. You could have done a million.
I'm just saying, but look, they had to make a decision here and, fix this match. Now, they could have just pulled the Bellas straight up and done a triple threat and put Lyra and Bayley over, and I probably would have preferred that booking, but it is really tough to deny how big of a pop Paige got. And sure, WrestleMania moment is overplayed, totally, of course. But, like, this was a memorable moment from the show. And this was extremely well received by fans. We are partial to Bayley and Lyra. I, perhaps even more so than you. In fact, not perhaps. Myself more so than you are. I can still see both sides of the coin. Like, I'm extremely disappointed for Bayley and Lyra. At the same time, I get it.
Any Paige return is going to be a moment, and you can make that work at the expense of insulting the tag team division, because I don't think Paige and Brie Bella are going to be long, strong fighting.
Dude, they could drop it Monday. Bayley and Lyra could win Monday.
Yeah, and that tells you the tag team division is a joke, which is what they did a year ago.
I mean, it's not the first time that would have happened.
That someone who hasn't wrestled in forever can come join Brie Bella, who hasn't wrestled in forever, and beat your best tag
Yeah, but
team.
it was the way they did it was circumstantial. They cheated to win. Nikki used the crutch, Charlotte. I mean,
then tell us that. Like,
they did. They showed it.
But I mean, like,
but
commentary.
I just want to clarify.
There was a celebratory face.
This could be the second year in a row, because if memory serves, Lyra and Becky last year, they won at WrestleMania. They lost on the right after WrestleMania. And that's when Becky turned on Lyra.
Correct. That's why I said.
So this may happen exactly the same as what I'm saying. Like, it may be a situation where Bayley and Lyra are the ones who are victorious this time. And there's no turn.
And it was terrible last year too. I complained about it then. I'm being consistent.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was because Bayley got left off the show.
And because it made the tag teams look like a joke.
Yes,
so
yeah. But the division's been.
I don't care about these tag team belts because I'm just going to turn.
We have so much more to talk about, but the division's been terrible since they ended Rio for no reason, just to put Jade Cargill in the match with Rhea Ripley. Ever since that happened, this division has been on a downward spiral. It was one of the best things in WWE. They completely killed it. Simple as that. LA Knight and the Usos fought ISO Speed and the Vision. This opened the event on ESPN2. The Usos somehow had another remix of Main Event-ish, where the lyric was changed to, "It's you and me, Us, day one-ish," which is definitely the best and hopefully final version. Still, it was the third or fourth version.
Unbelievable.
Knight drove out in a personalized Ram truck. The Vision came out behind a big sheet of their logo, which looked so freaking stupid. They looked like ants by the time that thing fell down. But they actually had a kind of cool entrance with 9 different drone cameras showing them from different angles. It was pretty smart considering the faction name, the Vision. Knight toyed with Speed at the bell. He got one body slam, then ran away. Jimmy landed Us in the wind on Logan Paul. Austin Theory took a counter spear only for Jay to eat a nice gut-wrench slam from Logan. Speed did a rotating head scissors and then avoided a BFT, but pushed Knight into Paul, knocking his partner from the ring apron. Theory then demanded Speed attack Knight, but they got running into each other, and Theory ate a BFT with the babyfaces winning in just over 7 minutes. Logan leveled Speed with a haymaker after the bell, getting a ton of heat, blaming him, screwing up, all that. The Usos ultimately saved Speed from taking Paul from Grace on the announce table. They botched their 1D, their finishing move. Knight then threw Speed into the ring, put Logan on the table. So Speed climbed to the top of the ring post. Fans were literally chanting his name. And he hit a Montez Ford style half-turn frog splash for a massive pop. Not a great frog splash form-wise. I'm not trying to put him in the Ford category. I'm simply saying the half-turn like Montez does. The faces put him over after the bell, and they did an encore yeeting to end that segment of the show. I did not expect this match to be long. I did expect it to be more entertaining, and I was disappointed when the final bell rang. It ultimately made sense because the key to the segment was Speed getting over on Logan, which would not have worked with them as teammates until that fell apart. I still figured we'd get more from Speed, simply given his high level of athleticism. It was severely underwhelming for that reason, but given the circumstances of the match, opening the entire card on ESPN2, the star power, the virality of the moment, it did work for what they wanted to accomplish. From a match grade standpoint, I was at 2 stars, C-, which may even be a little bit generous because it was nothing. It never got out of first gear. This was the first match on the card. In hindsight, it was really a harbinger of what was to come over the rest of the show. But for a first match, to kick off WrestleMania, to get that moment with Speed, it was a great move that he did. I was totally fine with this when it ended. But on the Ultimate Preview, we said, it's a lot of athleticism. There's 2 huge baby faces in this match. This thing could really over-deliver. It most certainly did not over-deliver.
It was fine. Like, the crowd was definitely into it, and I get it. And look, you made a moment. You had IShowSpeed do his thing, and that was really cool. It's a difficult, impressive thing to do.
It is.
I thought the camera angle sucked. They did it from like way up high.
They keep doing the drone camera. It's so stupid.
Yeah, you lose all context of how impressive it was.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't look, you're so far away from it, you can't tell how high he is. I hate how they do. Sometimes they do it from below and it's kind of the same problem. Show us. Anyway. But ultimately, it was my biggest concern coming in, which was you've got one of the greatest tag teams of all time in the Usos. You've got the tag team in the Vision. You've got LA Knight, who's a megastar. And the entire thing was about IShowSpeed. And that was my frustration. Not that he was in it, not that he was doing stuff, but he became the storyline in the same way Pat McAfee became the storyline with Randy and Cody, where it's like, what are we actually doing here?
Mm-hmm.
And Cole, also, I wrote in my notes, Cole just briefly mentioned, by the way, Jey Uso getting arrested for attacking Cameron at the at the radio thing.
Yeah,
that he was
I didn't
doing
see him get arrested. What are you talking about?
There's a mugshot that was going around.
Oh, really?
Like that. So,
Oh.
yeah. So it's just like, oh yeah, by the way, that happened. You're like, yeah. So it's always hard to tell what's kayfabe and what's not here. But like, it was good and stuff. I just it in terms of this being one of the 2 matches on ESPN, I frankly think it was 2 of the worst you could have put on, because you didn't ultimately, like you said, it was a harbinger of things to come, which was the show actually isn't about wrestling. Yeah. So maybe they did show you what you're going to get on the rest of the show.
I guess they did.
But imagine if we had opened with Seth Gunther and like getting into that. I don't think IShowSpeed or Logan Paul are selling many subs for selling ESPN subs to WrestleMania.
No,
by being on
no.
ESPN2.
They were getting ratings for ESPN2 is all they did, presumably.
They're selling WrestleMania through their own streams. IShowSpeed was streaming this,
right,
and it apparently had big numbers on it.
Yeah,
so like
he did.
That is the thing. I don't think you need to make this the free match on ESPN2 if all those people are already watching it not on ESPN2, is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
And then the unsanctioned match, to kind of, it wasn't goofy, but it was like, it wasn't very violent when you pitched them on violence.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think either of those two matches were great sells for what you're going to do if these are the things on ESPN. Now, you'll see it tomorrow. We got Brock Lesnar, Obafemba opening the show on main ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly the kind of thing you put in that spot.
Indeed.
Not two super gimmicky matches that are not about wrestling. They basically sold you, come by ESPN to watch WrestleMania because we've got YouTubers doing things and some guys being kind of violent with each other. Like, if you're a casual or not even a fan, what about those first two matches sold you on WrestleMania?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. I literally have nothing else to say. It wasn't, the unsanctioned match wasn't violent enough. The opening match, the 6-man, was not fun enough. All right, that wraps up our WWE WrestleMania 42 Night 1 instant analysis. So the only remaining portion of this show is for us to get into our final grades. Now, from the pre-show standpoint, you and I both gave our grades on the Ultimate Preview. Silver King came in expecting a 90 out of 100, an A-. You had the same letter grade, different numerical grade, 92 out of 100, an A-. All of our listeners are getting overheads. They had the opportunity to vote and provide their pre-show expectation grades on Twitter at Getting Overcast. They came in 12% A+ to A, 62% A- to B+, 21% B to B-, 5% C+ or lower. That averages out to an 89.48, which actually does round up to a 90 A-, but that's as borderline as you're going to get between a 90 and an 89, an A- and a B+. So they were kind of closer to me, certainly, than you, but right along the same wavelength that this was going to be potentially a good show, but not a great show. Now, I have plenty to say as I kind of wrap this up, but Vintage, as always, you get the opportunity to go first. What was your final grade for night 1 of WWE WrestleMania 42?
This is difficult. It
is.
For fear of getting Andreas hailed and not getting credentialed to WWE in the future for some reason, I'm going to give this a C+. And the only reason it's even that high is because we got title changes, things that mattered. That's one of my grading points. Did stuff happen on the show that mattered? And we did. We got some title changes. But that's it. And that grade has nothing to do with the work that was done. Everybody did the best that they could with what they were given.
Mm-hmm.
But way too many people, almost everybody, was given nothing. What did I like on this show? I loved Seth Gunther. I liked the wrestling part of Cody Randy.
The match, yes.
Yes. And I liked seeing Paige back.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it. There was one thing, I think, on this show that I will go, two things that I will go back and watch. One of them's 15 seconds. It's just Paige's return.
Mm-hmm.
The other is Gunther Seth.
Yeah.
There's nothing else on the show I would say, oh, you missed Mania? You got to go watch this and this and this and
Mm-hmm.
this. You missed nothing. You for the most part. Like, and that is shocking for WrestleMania. I had nearly an A grade coming into this. This is one of the lowest grades I've probably given on this show, at least definitely in the Triple H era. But this show was nothing, man.
Yeah.
This show was empty. There was barely any wrestling in it. It was insulting to the hardworking men and women of this company who spend all year working hard, taking bumps, getting injured, coming back, telling stories. And to give them, so many of them, nothing on the biggest show. Also, you can sell a bunch of more commercials. Also, you can just give us just empty calories. I was stunned how bad this show was.
Yeah, this was a extremely disappointing and frustrating night of WrestleMania. You know, due to the first hour airing on ESPN2, WWE was basically forced to plan its night 1 card from bottom to top, which is what I have always desired, for wrestling to build to the main event, just like boxing and other combat sports. And for wrestling, you have to allow one outlier, like a main event, level match to open or something to put early just to get the crowd going. In this case, that outlier was supposed to be Fatu and McIntyre. But on Saturday, that meant the 3 best matches were the 3 final matches in order. And only one of those 3 delivered to expectation. It was not the main event. It was Gunther and Rollins, as you just mentioned. WrestleMania this year has been booked as a 4-hour show both nights. That is 240 minutes. I want you to keep that number in your head. 240 minutes. When you consider that WWE does a song at the start, long entrances, and tons of ads, you know off the bat that a lot of that time will not be wrestling. And that's okay. We have come to accept and expect that. By my count, and my match times were longer in some cases than what's on Wikipedia. I'm not sure where some of those numbers come from. But when you talk about match time and also action time, pre and post match fighting, which is part of the physicality and action, and we saw that in 3 different matches on this show. I had night 1 at 95 minutes of action. That's 40% of the show. 40% of WrestleMania was wrestling. Night 1 last year, pure match time, not covering anything else extra that happened. And we know plenty of extra happened on night 1 last year. Night 1 was 105 minutes.
Wow.
And I believe it was less than 4 hours, start to finish. I could be wrong. What is the point entertainment-wise? Because after all, you do need to entertain your fans and keep them consuming your product. What is the point of splitting a WrestleMania card across 2 nights if you are not going to let your wrestlers effing wrestle? Each of the 3 women's matches, as we have mentioned, were 9 minutes or less. The shortest of the show, not counting the silly opener. All of that time wasted. 2.5 hours without wrestling. We got 1 pre-match video package. It used to be a complaint that, oh, they do so many pre-match video packages, it takes up so much time. We got 1 on the entire show. It did not matter if you were watching on ESPN, Netflix, or anywhere. Even those of us watching on Netflix, we were stuck with Hulk Hogan docuseries trailers instead of commercials that you watched on ESPN, instead of the pre-match video packages that we used to get. I know.
So because it used to be on Peacock, if you had to pay the extra version, which I didn't,
Which
you
I
did,
did.
I would get commercials.
I would get the packages.
You would get the video package.
Yes.
But that wasn't the case here. We were using NordVPN. We were watching on Netflix, so the international feed. Every single commercial break was clips from the Hulk Hogan documentary that's coming on Netflix.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we saw the whole thing.
There were like 3 clips played on an endless loop. It was unbelievable.
And they were like 8-minute breaks between matches. What happened to the show?
Each one of the commercial breaks, the actual quote unquote commercial breaks, each one of those was 4 minutes. Then there was a promotion sometimes on either side that was ingrained into the broadcast. And then, and I'm going to get to this, they would cut to the crowd and do another promotion with the General or with some other bullshit, the Mandalorian. Drumstick or the Mandalorian or whatever the case might be. Look, I know a ton of video packages were played on the 3-hour countdown, which was actually pretty well done. But WrestleMania is the show for a casual audience. You have built this for casuals. If you're not telling the audience that's watching why these matches matter, and then all of the matches are 8 minutes, what are you accomplishing? Triple H said on, I believe it was ESPN, or maybe it was the sit-down interview with Joe Tessitore, that coming out of WrestleMania, we will be successful if we satisfy our hardcore fans and the casuals who watch us find a reason to keep watching. If you are not giving them video packages so they understand the backstories of these matches, and then you are not giving them wrestling to attract them to the product, because it is the wrestling that gets the fans going and gets them excited, as evidenced Saturday night throughout the entire show. If you are not doing either of those things, what do you think is gaining the casual audience? The promotions and advertising? George Kittle chugging 3 beers. We needed to see that 3 times. 1 was totally fine. It's George Kittle. He's fun. It's cool. 3? I need to see him 3. We have huge celebrities in attendance. It's a racist comedian next to a guy who looks like a melted candle. And I need to see that. That has to take 2 minutes of the show that can't be given to the women's tag team match or the women's championship match. Now, look, I could go on, Chris. I'm going to put a pin in this until Sunday because you never know what can change.
Yes.
Maybe Sunday's show is wrestling heavy, and there's certainly matches on that card that could be that and could get us really excited. The ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship, Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio, the main event. There's a lot of good wrestling potentially on that card. But holy hell, does it feel like TKO, especially since the start of the ESPN deal. It's doing everything it can to kill this product. All of that commercial and promotion time was directly responsible for the matches being so short. This show, Chris, was in Las Vegas. Why was it stuck at 4 hours of runtime? We don't want WrestleMania to go on forever. I get it. But if you're going to do that much promotion and that many commercials, why not run it for 4.5 hours? That extra 30 minutes changes everything. That's an average of 6 more minutes for all of those short matches. Now you're talking about 14-minute matches or 12-minute and 16-minute matches. You could even give 3 or 4 minutes to some of those matches and spend that extra time doing another match. This show had a couple memorable moments, sure, but I don't know who this was booked to attract. Certainly not the hardcore audience, right. Definitely not a casual audience watching it for the first time or considering coming back to the product because it's on ESPN and easily accessible. This did not succeed for either group. If this was a regular WWE PLE, 5 matches with some of those moments, I'd maybe give it like a high B or a B+. But this was WrestleMania, a show that entered. I'm sorry, let me finish here. A show that we entered saying it needed to over-deliver because the build, especially on SmackDown, was such shit. WWE, Chris, they have not had a very good to great PLE that involved men, because we know Evolution was great. It has not had a very good to great PLE involving men since Crown Jewel in October, that show in Australia. Survivor Series War Games, not great. Royal Rumble, not great. Elimination Chamber, not great. That is 6 months of mediocre or worse premium live events. And now you add WrestleMania Night 1 onto that. You could argue this was the quote-unquote worst since WrestlePalooza, which was a colossal failure. So I just went on a pretty long rant there and explained why I hated so much of what happened on Saturday night. And yet, I kind of disagree with a C+ grade from you. I'm not saying it's unfair. And if people vote that C+ or C, totally legit. But I was not leaving that show thinking it barely had anything that was worthwhile. Things were too short. The main event booking did not entirely make sense from a storyline standpoint. We had a great Seth Rollins and Gunther match. There were multiple other things. The decisions and moments that we got in the 3 women's matches, even though none of them delivered the way we wanted them to, they were all largely what they should have been. The Page return kind of vaulted the women's tag team match. Jacob Fatu and McIntyre, again, did not live up to expectations, but my expectations were an A- for the show. So I'm not at a C+, but I'm pretty damn close. I'm at an 83, the lowest B that you can possibly get. This was a massively disappointing night of WrestleMania, and I don't know what they could possibly do on Sunday. Or forget that. I don't know how, if they thought this was going to be a good night of WrestleMania, that whatever they have planned for Sunday could possibly be good.
Well, that's the thing.
I don't know how it cannot be possible when we are done with the show. And I'll let you get in a second. I'm sorry. When we are done with the show tomorrow night, I would be floored if our average grade was anything above like an 86 or 87 for this WrestleMania. That is how disappointing Saturday night was.
Well, give me the listener's grade.
Sure. I need to scroll through and do that really fast. Let's do it live. 5% A+ to A, 22% A- to B+, 39% B to B-, 34% C+ or lower. So you had 27% A+ to B+, and then 34% C+ or lower, 39% in the middle. That averages out to an 83.46, which averages out to an 84, a B. So slightly higher than me, but a low B still.
So I fully believe night 2 can be fantastic. Like it could be. Like it has like maybe 3 of the matches I was most looking forward to, at least the top 2.
Mm-hmm.
So like they can still give us a great night too.
Sorry to interrupt because I just spoke for like 20 minutes. There's also one fewer match, which means in theory they should all be a little bit longer. Please go ahead.
Yeah. But I'm starting to lose trust because the same thing happened last year when Triple H or whoever was basically like, don't worry, you guys are going to love it. And people didn't love it.
No.
And the same thing happened going into this. Like, this show was, again, there was nothing. Who is this show for?
Yep.
Who was it for? Like, if the goal is to get people to watch more WWE, how does this show do it?
It didn't.
You have a bunch of peripheral extraneous stuff that is not on your weekly television show.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, what is the sell? I don't know. That's what I'm missing. Like, I understand everything's been eventized. You got to sell 1 million ads. You got to raise ticket prices. I understand all this stuff, but you can't like cut down on the product itself that much. The Super Bowl is a whole thing. They're not shortening the game.
Yeah, you still got the game. Right.
Right. Like this is that's the problem. And so, man, I'm just so discouraged from this show when I really thought like, hey, it's been bad for a while, but it's Mania. They've pulled some stuff out at SummerSlam and last year's Mania to make this like worthwhile. And they just didn't.
Yeah, that's the frustrating part. It's that SmackDown has been horrific for a month. Raw has not. It maybe hasn't been incredible, but it certainly has not been as bad as SmackDown.
Well,
it's been totally watchable on Monday night. So
and Monday Night Raw has the 2 matches we're most looking forward to tomorrow night too.
But they also have the worst built women's match of the 4. But look at the first 3 were. How is that one going to be better? Like that's the pessimist, right? But you look at it and you're like, they didn't book Io Sky and Asuka on the show, which was ready-made for this, and talk about a high-quality women's match. They booted Carmelo Hayes off of this for no reason whatsoever. Fans are upset at both of those decisions. They injected Pat McAfee into the Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton thing for no reason whatsoever. They gave none of the women's matches time. They did an unsanctioned match that was not wrestled like an unsanctioned match. And that's just like the tip of the iceberg without digging into like the details of everything that was wrong, the timing, the amount of ads and promotion, all those things. It really is difficult to see the forest through the trees here. Because, you can have a poor Royal Rumble or poor Elimination Chamber and say, well, they're going to knock it out at WrestleMania because they always do, especially the last few years. Like even last year, there was obvious disappointment with the main event of night 2. But what did we just say? Those 2 triple threats were incredible. I have watched both of those matches multiple times. We end Saturday. You said you're going to watch Gunther and Rollins again. I will too. I'll watch it once more. I will never watch this show again. Like it's
That's
not
what I'm saying.
It's just not going to happen. And I have not said that about a WrestleMania in a long time. That's how poor this was. That's how disappointing and frustrating it was. And I forgot the phrase you used, but you said something about like they're ruining my trust.
Yeah.
That's how it feels to me as well. Like we on this show are very fair and even-handed. We call out shit when it's shit. We put over great stuff when it's great, and we correct people who think great stuff is shit or shitty stuff is great when appropriate. And with WWE, especially recently, there has been an immense amount of negativity that has felt forced and unfair. And we've called that out. We've called that out when appropriate. This that we're doing on this show, our conversation here, there's nothing forced about this. This was a more negative than positive night of WrestleMania. And with how much time they have to build this show, especially these days, 6 weeks from Elimination Chamber, even if stuff is messed up, you have 6 weeks to figure it out. We've talked about this on the podcast ad nauseum for anyone who's a first-time listener. Triple H has been forced to change the main events of this show and major matches on this show multiple times in the last 6 months. Not just the men's matches, the women's matches, other things. It has been chaotic for him. And I understand that, and there's a benefit of the doubt that was allowed by us on the Ultimate Preview coming in. But once you get to WrestleMania, you got to kill it. And they're killing it in the other direction. They're burying this product. This is the lowest point that I have felt about WWE in a long time. I'm not going to say since Vince McMahon or the pandemic. It's probably not fair.
No.
But in a long time.
It's better than that. Honestly, it felt kind of Vince-ish to that point. So we often talk about the divide between WWE and AEW, where AEW is too much and WWE is not enough. And that chasm is only getting bigger. For the love of God,
in both directions.
Please find a middle ground.
In both directions, really. Like it's happening both ways. And it's like,
I don't need a 7-hour show that's no breaks.
And a 4-hour show with no wrestling. Like it's insane. Yeah. Like, again, if you gave us last year's WrestleMania night 1 in terms of match times, we're still probably complaining about some stuff. Nowhere near what we are right now. I mean, it was to do 95 minutes of wrestling in action on a 4-hour show is unfathomable. It really is. And with one fewer match on Sunday and some of the matches that we are looking most forward to on that show, they have an opportunity to kind of change the tone of the weekend. But at least when it comes to the women's division, because Rhea Ripley and Jade Cargill are not getting 20 minutes or anything like that. At least when it comes to the women's division, we were talking about how WWE was kind of rolling with that a while ago. And it seemed like they were really buying into it and doing great. Talk about, feeling about the lowest about WWE creative I have in quite some time. I feel the worst about the women's division I have in quite some time as well. If they are like, we need to cut time on matches and their decision is that all of those have to be the women's matches, I mean, they're not getting it right. They're not understanding the lessons that they had learned, that people care about women's wrestling. And that I ended up watching the WWE Hall of Fame. We'll talk about that on Tuesday. They spent like 1/3 of Stephanie McMahon's induction on Friday night putting over how well WWE does women's wrestling because of her input, partially playing into that. And then they do this one night later.
I'm going to hold off on the big picture stuff. Like, they're starting to lose my trust. I'm not going to say I'm at low points, yada, yada. We still have a night 2.
I'm just saying how I feel. I'm saying in this night, in this moment, that is how it feels. But you are correct. We cannot give a final determination until after tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm saving my big picture WWE thoughts for night 2. And let's pray we have a good night 2. I think we're going to. I really like the card. I think we have some huge
Let me ask you one
matches.
question.
Let's just pray we get a good night 2 and we can put this one behind us.
Can it be worse?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think it can be
because
worse.
I don't think it can because, one, there's less matches. So
right.
Theoretically there has to be more time.
Right.
And 2, I don't think, I mean, I guess it's possible, but I think the floor is so much higher. I can't see
it would have to be
the ladder match.
I
can't see the ladder match being bad. I can't see Punk Roman being bad. I can't see Sammy Trick being bad. I can't see Opa. We could maybe get mad at the finish if Brock wins, but I can't see that not feeling like a big deal.
It would have to be it would have to be like Lesnar squashing Femi.
Which I don't
Reigns and Punk ending in a DQ. Ripley and Cargill being as bad as we think it might be. Sammy retaining over Trick. Like, all of those would have to happen for that show to be worse, I think. Or most.
Yeah, I don't, because again, the biggest problem here is the lack of wrestling, and I think we're going to get more wrestling.
Fingers crossed. I mean, we're not going to get it from the Oba Brock match, but maybe and we're not going to get it from the Rhea Jade match. So maybe the other 4 are going to get all that extra time, which could potentially be nice. All right, let's wrap up this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, your WWE WrestleMania 42 Night 1 instant analysis. I truly hope you and I are much more positive on Sunday coming out of night 2, not just about the show itself, but the future of WWE. Because again, just the way that the tone of this show has been, it was really not what I expected coming into the day. Coming out of this show, allow the Silver King to remind you that we still have a WWE WrestleMania 42 Night 2 Ultimate Preview. So get yourself primed and prepped for that show. We do have an overarching conversation about WrestleMania on that podcast episode as well. You do not want to miss it. We also have the WrestleMania week wrap-up podcast in the feed. You should listen to that as well. 3 hours of performance-enhancing audio to get you into the WWE countdown and then into WWE WrestleMania 42 Night 2. Of course, Sunday night, as soon as that show goes off the air, we will be back with your instant analysis podcast. Please do not forget, here at Getting Over,
it's all about the fire.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, leave a 5-star rating on Apple, take a little extra time, leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can vote in our pre and post show polls for WrestleMania Night 2, and you can send in questions and comments to the show that we will read this coming Tuesday on our Raw After WrestleMania episode, which is also our WrestleMania 42 second look. All of that on Tuesday. Send in your questions and comments. Don't forget to join our Slack channel as well. And when you follow us at Getting Overcast on YouTube, you can listen to the show. You can watch full-length video interviews. Lastly, on the way out, please remember,
I happen to love the number 5.
hope you do too. buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Head over there. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. All you have to do is sign up. You get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Please support us as we deliver performance-enhancing audio into your earholes. buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. That wraps it up for Saturday night. Technically, Sunday morning. We will be back in less than 24 hours for Vintage Chris Manini. This is the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.